Hello guys, in this video I will be showing you a list of the top 10 units of every typing in the game. So skill types, heart types, body types, bravery types, and wisdom types. And in this list it will include both PVE units and PvP units. Alright, let's get started. I also forgot to mention that the units in this list are in no particular order. The first unit on my list for the heart type is Obito, 3rd anniversary Obito. For his first ability, he can nullify health recovery ceiling. Um, he also has a 50% chance of resetting on his ninjutsu, and on his ninjutsu he can heal like a lot, so it's really good. He can do more damage to heart type, 25% more, and 25% more to skill types, and then he has a 50% chance of dodging. For his field skill, he can reduce the chance of receiving immobilization and jutsu ceiling by 30 to 40% each. And for his buddy skill, he reduces damage by 30% with a 30% chance of dodging an attack. It's an amazing buddy skill. For his ninjutsu, he basically ignores everything, and it's AoE and a 100% chance of health recovery ceiling for 3 turns, and he restores 2500 of 1 health for 4 turns, which you can stack up to like I think 15k. For his red ring, he ignores everything too, basically, to 1 enemy, and he restores 3 chakra. He gets 3 chakra back, so enough for another ninjutsu. So overall, a really good unit. The second unit on my list for the heart types is Sakura, the new Blazing Festival Sakura. It can heal for up to 1500 health every turn, which is really good. It has resistance against jutsu ceiling by 40% and does 30% more damage to skill types. Actually, it can, dang, jutsu ceiling 90%, never mind, 90%. So he has resistance 90% jutsu for 90% resistance to jutsu ceiling. It reduces heart as a field skill. It reduces heart and body elemental damage by 25 to 30%. As a buddy skill, it reduces the chance of receiving health recovery to damage conversion by 40% and restores 500 health. That's a lot. For ninjutsu, does 5 times attack toward all enemies in range, 80% chance of health recovery to damage conversion for 3 turns, and creates an acid area that does 1500 damage and ignores defense for 3 turns. So pretty good. The red ring removes perfect dodge and barrier, a single target, and ignores substitution, and it basically ignores everything. So it does like high damage for a red ring. Okay, the third unit on my list is Pain. For his first ability, he ignores damage reduction effects and does damage, so that's good. And has a 15% chance to not consume any chakra when doing ninjutsu, and 15% chance for secret techniques. 10% chance of restoring 1 chakra gauge when receiving attacks. Reduce damage by 25% and nullifies element affinity based damage reduction. For his field skill, he reduces damage by 25 to 30%. For his buddy skill, he boosts attack by 300 and restores 250 health. And for his ninjutsu, he does 9 times attack towards 1 enemy with 80% chance of attack weakening for 5 turns, and it also gives you 30% damage reduction for 5 turns. For his red ring, 23 times toward all enemies in range, knocks them back, and puts up a barrier that protects you from 1500 damage worth of attacks for 5 turns. Notifies damage you receive from ninjutsu or secret techniques for 3 turns. So you basically can't get touched when you do the red ring, and it hits everyone in the map. So really good too. The next person on my list is Final Valley Naruto. He's an amazing healer and also a very good tank against wisdom and bravery type. So his first ability, he reduced bravery damage by 40% and wisdom damage by 40% as a second. And he boosts his critical rate by 4 times. He has a chance of receiving chakra when the enemy is hitting him. He can heal for 750 each turn, and he can start off the match with the red ring with his last ability. And he just got a limit break, so he's even more OP than what he already was. Field skill that's broken. It boosts heart attack by 750, so that's really good. And buddy skill boosts attack by 300. The ninjutsu ignores substitution for all enemies in range with 8 times attack toward them and knocks them back. So it has a really good AoE range. The red ring, it removes perfect dodge, attack boost, and barrier for 1 enemy in range, and ignores substitution with 30 times attack toward them. So he's a really good support unit, healer, a tank, and he can do damage too, so he's really good. Next is the old Blazing Festival Kaguya. She's still good because she still heals a lot and has a high chance of resets for her ninjutsu, and she nukes, like she does a lot of damage for her red ring. So 20% or 40% chance to reset for ninjutsu, 700 healing, reduce chakra consumed by 1, so it turned from a 612 chakra to 510, and increases secret technique damage multiplier by 1. And it has a limit break, so it's even better. Way more strength and health. His field skill reduces damage by 20% to 25%, and his buddy skill boosts attack by 250. So pretty good. His ninjutsu 6.3 times attack toward all enemies in range, knocking them back, and gives you 40% damage reduction for 1 turn and restores own chakra gauge by 1. So pretty good. And a secret technique neutralizes element affinity based damage reduction for 1 of all enemies on screen. So single target. Ignores substitution with 22 times attack toward them and knocks them back. So really good nuker and healer. Next unit on the list is this Sasuke. He's very good for PvP. He can nullify mobilization. He can immobilize other people and jutsu seal them. So let's see. He nullifies chakra recovery sealing. Lowers rate of getting jutsu seal by 60%. Nope, 40%. No, 30% resistance. Boost rate of immobilization by 10%. Boost rate of jutsu sealing by 10%. And nullifies element affinity based damage. And he can't get immobilized with this last ability. His speed is 363 max, so not bad. His field skill reduces the chance of receiving immobilization and jutsu sealing by 30% to 40% each. And buddy skill boosts critical rate by 3 times and attack by 250. His ninjutsu removes perfect dodge and barrier for all enemies in range, and ignores substitution with 4 times attack toward them, drawing them closer. So it bunches all of them together and brings them closer. 65% chance of jutsu sealing for 4 seconds and or immobilization for 1 second each. So with these abilities, it'll boost it to 75% 25% chance of jutsu sealing and immobilization. So for 4 seconds, that's a lot. That's like the whole game. 1 second for immobilization isn't too much, but it's still something. So that's why Sasuke is in this list. The next unit on my list is Sage Mode Naruto. For his first ability, he can nullify element affinity based damage reduction, reduce damage taken by 35%, does more damage to body units by 30%, has resistance against immobilization and jutsu sealing by 50%, and has a 35% chance of not using any chakra when he does ninjutsus. For his field skill, he reduces body elemental damage by 25 to 30%. For his buddy skill, he reduces body elemental damage by 30%. For his ninjutsu, he ignores substitution for all enemies in range with 4.9 times attack toward them and knocks them back. 75% chance of switch sealing for 6 turns and or chakra recover sealing for 6 turns each. It's pretty good. For his red secret technique, he ignores substitution for all enemies in range with 13.2 times attack toward them and knocks them back. 90% chance of switch sealing for 3 turns and or speed reduction for 6 seconds each. So, very good. Okay, the next unit on my list is Minato. He, for his first ability, he can nullify element affinity based damage. He has a 10% chance of restoring 1 chakra gauge when dealing direct attacks, so when someone's hitting him. 40% chance to get a reset on his ninjutsu, and a 40% chance to get a reset on his red ring as well. For his field skill, he reduces skill elemental damage by 30% to 35%. And his buddy skill, 20% chance of dodging an attack. So really good field skill and buddy skill. For his ninjutsu, he ignores substitution for 1 enemy in range and 6 times attack toward them and 70% chance of health recovery sealing for 7 turns. For his red ring, he ignores substitution for 1 enemy on screen, so single target, 21 times attack toward them and 90% chance of health recovery sealing for 12 turns, and also gives you 20% damage reduction for 6 turns. So he's a really good nuker to the skill types, and he can get a lot of resets. Next unit on my list is Kakashi. He's very good for damage against all typing, and for his secret technique, he has a very big range and it's AoE, so he's pretty good. For his first ability is 40% increase to damage against skill, 40 to heart, 40 to bravery, 40 to wisdom, and 40 to body. So 40% increased damage to all typing, and lowers rate of getting immobilized by 20%. So he has 20% resistance of getting immobilized. Pretty decent strength and health. For his field skill, he reduces damage by 15 to 20%, and his buddy skill is he has a 20% chance of dodging an attack. So pretty decent field skill and buddy skill. For his ninjutsu, he does 6.5 times attack toward 1 enemy in range and increases your chance to dodge by 30% for 2 turns. So not bad, pretty good. The red ring secret technique, 14 times attack toward all enemies in range, knocking them back, and gives you 30% damage reduction for 2 turns. The final unit on my list is the New Year's Itachi. He is a good nuker to the skill types and has a high chance of resetting on his secret technique, so overall pretty good. So his first ability nullifies chakra recovery sealing. Second ability is 60% chance to do more damage, or not chance, 60% more damage to skill types. extend active secret technique effect by 2 turns, and 50% chance to not consume chakra when you do your red ring. Field skill reduces the chance of receiving slip damage and health recovery to damage conversion by 25 to 35%. Buddy skill reduces the chance of receiving chakra recovery, sealing, and immobilization by 35%. So buddy skill is pretty good and field skill decent. Ninjutsu 8 times. Ninjutsu 8 times attack to all skill elemental enemies in range and knocks them back. 7 times attack to all other elemental enemies in range and knocks them back. 75% chance of health recovery, sealing for 3 turns, and her jutsu sealing for 3 turns each. And as a red ring, ignores damage reduction effects, substitution for all enemies in range with 20 times attack toward them. And you can't get touched by ninjutsu or shigatani for 3 turns. And here are the honorable mentions for heart type that didn't quite make the top 10 but are still pretty good. Raged Obito, Kushina, and Shikamaru. Raged Obito is very good for pushbacks and PvP. Shikamaru is very good for immobilizing for a really long time and PvP as well. And Kushina is very good for uh, switching typing, and it's good and it's very good because it goes under 28 cost.